the key issue, of course, even in a parliamentary democracy such as Ukraine, is who becomes the president. The person they've always feared the most, Ukraine's oligarchs, is Yulia Tymoshenko. This was true in 2010 and in 2014. In 2010, Viktor Yushchenko did a devil's deal with Viktor Yanukovych to block the election of Yulia Tymoshenko. Rather bizarre, because Yanukovych destroyed everything that Yushchenko allegedly stood for in issues, for example, of national identity. So the operation of Stop Tymoshenko has been prominent, as you say, amongst particularly Akhmetov and the gas lobby Firtash and Co. In both cases. And I really do believe that in 2014, the gas lobby did a behind-the-scenes deal in Vienna with Klitschko and Poroshenko, precisely out of fear that Tymoshenko could be elected. So this certainly could happen again. So, but I believe that 2010 and 2014 were very specific circumstances. In 2010, you had complete disenchantment and disillusionment in Ukrainian political and civil society after 5 years of Yushchenko's failed presidency, which allowed Yanukovych to come back to power with a very small margin of victory. He only won by 3% over Tymoshenko. In 2014, again, it was a very specific and unique period of history where Ukraine's in the throes of state disintegration, in effect, Russia's invasion, the loss of the Crimea, and many Ukrainians voted only in one round, which is unusual in Ukraine, for somebody who was, I would say, cautious and a centrist. They didn't really want at that particular moment, when everything was unstable, they didn't really want a radical or revolutionary leader to come to power. That's now over. Ukraine is overcoming its economic difficulties and financial difficulties to a great degree, and therefore I think we will have a different situation down the road. But certainly Ukraine's oligarchs will not give up without a fight, just as they didn't in the West. I mean, it took many, many decades for big business to be brought under control in many Western countries. And in some of them, like the US, they still command great support, as we know from Bernie Sanders' rhetoric. So it's not going to be an easy question to resolve, particularly at the presidential election level. At the parliamentary elections, it should be a lot easier because Ukrainians will vote for whoever's, as it were, around and available, and sort of the Klitschko, Udar, and Petro Poroshenko's party are basically very unpopular. Yatsenyuk's Narodny Front is finished, and so they're going to be looking for new political forces or forces which have captured the mood of the time. On the presidential election side, I don't believe that Poroshenko will have a second term, and in that, Poroshenko will go into history in some ways similar to Leonid Kuchma, who was also elected in one round, and he also only served one term. So the question is who will be the main candidates. What has changed in Ukraine is that whereas in the past the second round of Ukraine's presidential elections were usually a contest between pro-Russian and pro-Western candidates, say, Yanukovych, Yushchenko, Yanukovych, Tymoshenko. In the next one, it will be a contest between a pro-oligarch, pragmatic, friendly candidate, whoever that will be, Poroshenko's successor, and an anti-oligarch candidate. So there will no longer be a pro-Russian candidate in the second round of Ukraine's presidential election. So we have progress in one way. What we need is for the pragmatic oligarch-friendly candidate to not win the presidential elections because they've had their chance after the Orange Revolution and Euromaidan.